Hello, this is Fernanda, and I'm here testing the audio as I start. This is a 3.2 challenge interviewing for story, and I'll be interviewing Gabriel. So, thank you, Gabriel, for your time. Thank you for the interview, and I'm gonna start asking you to introduce yourself. Sorry. One more thing. This assignment is going to be in regards of the pandemic. So this is going to be our theme of the interview. So thank you, Gabriel, one more time. And I'm going to start you to please introduce yourself and say what to do.
So thank you for having me here. My name is Gabriel Gaspar. I'm the father of two kids. I'm married to a beautiful wife called Fernanda. And I run a company. I run a startup called Nibo. I'm the co-founder and CEO of the company.
Okay, so Nibo is a startup. And what does it do? What is it about?
Well, we basically help small companies in Brazil to manage their finances. We offer them a very friendly software that helps them with their accounting. It helps them interact with their accountant. It helps them comply with the legislation in Brazil, basically.
Okay, so do you mind saying that when I ask you what does Nibo do, you say Nibo is a company. Can you start
Alright,
that
yeah,
with
yeah,
it?
yeah, of course. So Nibo is a company that helps small companies in Brazil manage their finances. We do that by offering these companies a software that helps them manage cash flow, generate accounting reports, interact with their accountants, and so on.
Okay, thank you. When did you start? When did you decide to create Nibo? When was it? When, like in time, and why?
So I basically decided to create Nibo 10 years ago. I had already worked in a lot of large companies, and I really, really wanted to create my own thing, my own company, my own business. And I was looking for a good problem to solve, a big problem that could, potentially generate a big company. So I started interacting with a lot of friends, bouncing some ideas around, seeing if they thought I was on to anything nice, and I thought that helping SMBs was a very interesting challenge, and I decided to start the company back in 2012.
So it's been like 11 years now.
Yeah, almost 11 years.
Okay. And how was it through the pandemic?
So the pandemic was really tough for us. We had basically two moments. In the first moment, it was really, really tough. Basically because we didn't know what was going to happen, right? So the level of uncertainty was really high. We didn't know if, our clients are going to go bankrupt. If our clients went bankrupt, we go bankrupt too. So we had to adjust quickly. Unfortunately, we had to, reduce the number of people we had in the company pretty drastically at the time. We had to fire quite a lot of people. We had to reduce the number of hours that people were working just to make sure that we didn't fall into not having money to pay for the bills, basically. So we basically had to adjust, the level of expenses that we had. But after that, when it was pretty clear that the pandemic wasn't so severe on the economic front, at least in Brazil, I think the pandemic started accelerating some macro trends that are important for us. So from one moment to the other, companies couldn't, rely on going to the office, on meeting people in person. They couldn't rely on their workflows that they had established over the years. And most of them had to, look for a cloud solution to run their business. Which is a macro trend that has been happening for a lot of time now, but this accelerated a lot during the pandemic. So I think, considering that the pandemic is over, people's behavior has changed a lot, and those changes in behavior are quite beneficial for us, I believe. So we have been selling more, we are growing faster than ever before. I think it has been, we navigated through the pandemic, we stayed alive, we helped our clients stay alive, and now we are enjoying the benefits of having done that, I believe.
So the overcome of the pandemics was beneficial for you, for your
Yeah,
company.
I think, of course, the pandemics was a big, disaster on the personal front, on the humanitarian level, of course. But it has created some important shifts in behavior that are quite beneficial for our company, I believe.
So before the pandemic, you had a location for Nibo. Where was Nibo located before the pandemic?
So before the pandemic, we had a large office in downtown Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. We were a team of almost 200 people, and everybody was commuting for long, long hours to go to the office.
And now, after the pandemics, after surviving with your company, like going through all these changes, where is Nibo located?
So now Nibo is spread in a lot of places. We don't have an office anymore. Basically, everyone can work from wherever they want. So we have very flexible policies. People can work, they can move, they can work in different places, in different time zones, and it works really, really well.
So you're saying that now Nibo is a cloud company.
A remote company, remote, yeah.
It's on the cloud.
It's in the cloud.
In the cloud.
Yeah, everybody works remotely, basically interacts through video conference calls, and it works really well. It takes some time to adapt and to understand what you have to do in the way you work, but after you figure that out, I'm pretty happy with that. I'm also enjoying myself, the flexibility that this brings.
So if you had to say something that was the best, something that you would take from the pandemic that was the best change for Nibo, would be the remote work?
I think, yeah, the acceleration of the macro trend that I mentioned is an important one, and remote work was another one that was really had a huge impact for us, because I never believed that remote worked. I was really close to those ideas. I thought it didn't work, so I needed really pandemics to make me realize that was a possibility. Yeah.
And what do you think about hybrid work? Like people, a couple of days in the office, a couple of days at home?
I think that it might work too. I tend to read a lot about.
Can you please rephrase?
Yeah, of course. I think hybrid work is another possibility too. I think you have to. There's no single formula that works for everybody, right? You have to figure out what works for the people who are in your company, what the context is, and what works better. Hybrid is good too. I tend to like the idea, but it also brings some challenges, right? You tend to, if the same people are meeting in presence, but you have people who are working remotely, people who are working remotely, they might feel they're not really part of the company because they're not going to lunch with everybody. They're not, having a beer with people after the lunch, and they might feel discouraged to remain in the company. So a big risk of hybrid work is the idea that the company might move again to being having a physical location only, because people who work remotely might not integrate well with the other people. So I tend to prefer either being 100% remote or 100%
in person.
In person, yeah.
Recently, Elon Musk said that all their employees had to return to work. What do you think about it?
Again, I think people have different challenges, right? It depends on the culture. It depends on the size of the company too. So we are a pretty small company. We are 130 people now. It's pretty easy to see the results that each area is giving to the company. If you're a huge company, it's hard to assess that. It might be a good idea to bring everybody back to the office again, and companies are in different situations, so Elon Musk, for example, at Twitter, he's really in a turnaround mode, cutting a lot of expenses, cutting people, and focusing a lot on really, really important projects. So I understand that in a scenario like this, where you have to to change things very quickly, to interact very quickly, and to get the best ideas very quickly, it might be interesting to bring everybody in the same location all the time. For us at Nibo, what we are doing has been working really well. We are growing well, and it's more of the same basically. We keep doing marginal improvements to the operation, to the product, and I think that in this mode, it's working pretty well.
Most people adapt to everything, right? Like we had to adapt to remote
Yeah, for sure.
when the pandemic started.
Yeah.
And now when we don't have the pandemic like as we had it before, we like had to readapt to going back to the office. Do you think that if you asked your employees to go back to the office right now, what would be the
leave.
result of that?
They would leave immediately.
Everybody?
Everybody would leave.
You think it would have 0 people?
Yeah. I was talking to a manager.
Just rephrasing, like if I had to,
Okay. I think if we had to move back to the working at the same location, everybody at the same time, we would lose 90% of the people at the company at this point, because people. First, the logistics in Rio de Janeiro are very complicated, right? People have to take a bus for 2 hours to go to work. It's a big nightmare. A lot of traffic jam everywhere. So people are really taking this time, 2 hours to go, 2 hours to go back. It's like 4 hours in a day. And people have, embraced all sort of activities, like enjoying the family, working out, reading, playing games, whatever they want. And people are not willing to go back to the old days, or they had to spend 4 hours in the bus anymore. I was talking to a manager who was she's a former manager at Nibo. She's working in another company, and she was describing that to me. The company was 100% remote during the pandemics, and now the C-level wants to bring everybody to the office, and she has already lost 90% of her team because people are not willing to do that. They prefer to quit and find another job that is 100% remote. So it's something you have to put, on paper, if you want to go back to have one single location and meeting everybody in person. Is your team going to go with you, or are we willing to change everybody just to have an office?
Because if you think about it, for you to have a location is more expensive to the company.
Yeah, for sure.
And then having people remote, it's more productive, and at the same time, it's less expensive to the company.
Yeah, my experience has been that having a team that is 100% remote is more productive. I think the gain of productivity is not equal in all the areas, in all the departments. For example, I think it brings a huge benefit to software engineers, to designers, to product people who are more looking at data and need a lot of concentration. It's not as clear if it's good or not for salespeople, for example. Salespeople need to interact. They like, they feel energized when they are dealing with other people. And they have a lot of learnings from listening to what other salespeople are saying in their calls. So I think there is productivity gain, but it's not equally distributed in the company. And
for every department.
For every department. And some departments might, struggle a little bit more with remote work than others. I think we still have to improve a lot on, maybe bringing salespeople together sometimes, every 2 months, every 3 months, for people to interact, to hang out. I think that's something important. Yeah.
So basically, if you had to, if it was mandatory to have a physical company,
yeah,
you would probably split that in departments. Like some departments would stay remotely, other departments would come
for sure.
together.
I think if we do, a questionnaire with engineers and designers and data engineers, nobody would want to go back to the office. Like, maybe 1-2 days, maybe someone would be willing to do, but most of them wouldn't want to do that at all. If we ask the same question to salespeople, to support people, I think more people would be willing to go back. So we still have to find a way to bring people together, to make sure, because, we are in the early days of remote work at the company. We still don't know what the long-term effects of being 100% remote are in terms of culture, how that changes culture, how that affects people's commitment, to staying with the company, to improving the company. I think this brings some challenges, but we're going to have to adapt and find ways to mitigate those risks, I believe.
I think most people don't believe in remote work because they think that people are not working when they're at home. And other people say that when they are at home, they are more productive because they are basically living at work.
Yeah.
It's not home office, it's working from home, they're living at work. Um, how do you measure, or how do you manage? Because when you're in a location, people arrive there and they're there.
Yeah.
But when they're home and their cameras sometimes are off, or how do you control their work, their productivity? How do you control that they are engaged for that period of time?
Yeah, I think what you're saying is very interesting because the main assumption of some companies is that they don't trust people, right? They have the impression that their employees wants to benefit, they want to make money, but
Take advantage of
take
them.
advantage, they don't want to work, they want to make money without working. And if you start from this assumption, you have to implement a sort of different controls to make sure that people are working, but
Big brother cameras in there.
yeah, you have to monitor people's computer to make sure they're not in social media all the time. It's a big nightmare, I have worked in large companies, and not necessarily if people are at work, they're working, I've seen a lot of people who are not productive at all at work. They do a lot of FaceTime, they arrive early, they leave late because they want their boss to notice that they are there, but not much work is being done, so if you don't trust your team, you have very big issues to solve, and it's not bringing people to the office that is going to solve there. At Nibo, we try to start from a different assumption, which is people are nice, people want to do good work, people want to produce. They're here to help the company do better. And I think people feel that. And by feeling that we trust them, they want to give back and they want to do their best, and they want to work even more. We have a pretty good set of goals, targets for the company, and it's pretty easy to see if people are delivering or not. People can fool us for some time, but not for a very long time, I believe. And we have a very meritocratic culture, so peers and managers, they tend to spot people who are not producing, who are not giving their best. They give feedback, and if people are not, if they don't feel that the place is right for them, they end up leaving after a while. But I think the bottom line is, which sort of relationship do you want to develop? Do you want to develop with your team? With people who work with you. It's a trusting relationship, or it's a relationship based out of distrust, untrust, and you have to think about all different types of controls to make sure that people are doing what they should be doing. That's, in my opinion, that's a huge waste of energy, and I'm not willing to be, on other people's, back, looking if they're working or not. I have more things to do than doing that.
So it's basically a company culture. Like, you hire the kind of people that you trust, or basically like you trust all of them when you hire them, and if they want to keep their freedom, they're good. They work, they do their work, and they continue. If they start not to deliver what they have to deliver, then you start to look for someone else, or...
Yeah, so basically we have to try to hire the best people we can. What's the best people we can? What does that mean? It's basically the type of people who work for us, who are similar to us in the way we see work, how important work is in our life, which sort of commitment we want to have with the company. So we try to spot these people in a selection process, right? In a recruiting process. We try to develop interviews and questionnaires and all sort of dynamics to spot these characteristics in people, and when we find people who seem to have a good fit with us, we bring them on board, we do an onboarding, we teach them what we do at Nibo, what they should be doing in their role, in their position, and we count on them to make the company better every day, so we do that by helping, by giving feedback. We expect to receive feedback from them too. Sometimes the best feedback we have is from people who have just arrived at the company, so we try to have this culture around, being open and sharing ideas, and criticism is really well received. We want people to say that, this is not going to work, this is not good. If it's not, we want people to be frank as possible in their opinion.
Did you lose people because you had no office? Just give me a complete answer. No.
We might have lost a few people because of the remote work strategy. But in this type of business, you're gonna lose people anyway, depending on the choice you make. You know, you cannot please everybody. We want to have people who you know, relate to the company, to the culture, as much as possible. So if we lose people who do not relate to what we're doing, who don't think this is the right place for them, we're not unhappy to lose them. You know, we are happy.
It's not really lost.
No, it's not really a loss. And this person can find another place that the person's gonna like more than working with us. So it's good for everybody. Yeah.
Nice. So I have just one last question for you. What advice today's Gabriel would give to the Gabriel from 10 years ago who founded Nibu? That went through a pandemic, that went from a physical office to a remote office, like 10 years of, almost 11 of, you know, things that happened. Yeah. And then you think of Gabriel back then, what advice would you give to that Gabriel?
Honestly, I don't think I could give a lot of advice to the Gabriel that started the company 10 years ago. Because I think looking back, it was so much harder than I thought it would be. That if I thought Gabriel how hard it was going to be, maybe I would have given up at the beginning. You know? So Gabriel from 10 years ago had a very naive and optimistic view of how everything was going to be. I think I would be quiet. I'd say, go ahead, man. Do what you think you have to do, you know?
So you
are on the right path, but I wouldn't be very specific because I think it was a lot harder than I thought it was going to be.
So you think that Gabriel from 10 years ago would have better advice to give it to you now than you would have to give it to that Gabriel?
Yeah, for sure. I think Gabriel from 10 years ago was, you know, betting everything on the company, was running risks that, you know, was putting everything on the line for the company, you know. And Gabriel from 10 years ago didn't have any doubt in his mind that this was going to work, you know. And with the years, with the crisis and everything, you know, we start having doubts, you know, oh my God, am I going to die? What's going to happen to the company? So I think I would be quiet, you know, listen to the naive Gabriel telling me, no, man, you can do it, you can do it.
And what do you think, Gabriel, from 10 years from now?
I think I'm going to have to wait for what Gabriel from 10 years from now is going to tell me.
What do you think he would tell you 10 years from now? Imagine you 10 years from now. What do you think he would tell you today?
I hope he tells me that I'm on the right path, that he's proud of what he did in the past, that he's proud of the way I behaved through different moments, through crises, through, you know, good moments. I think I stay grounded, you know, with my feet on the ground. I stay good to people. I don't know. Let's see what the next 10 years are going to bring.
So in 10 years, I'll interview you again and we're going to listen to this.
I hope Gabriel from 10 years is not going to stay quiet just like I would do from 10 years ago, you know? Yeah, keep doing what you're doing. Gabriel from 10 years ago is going to have a lot of scars on the face, going to have a lot of white hair.
And it's going to have a lot of benefits from your hard work. I'm sure.
I hope so.
Thank you so much, and I'll talk to you 10 years from now. Thank you, Gabriel.
Let's do that. Thank you.